On today's episode of The Intangibles, we'll be kicking things off as always with the play of the game. At 6:05, we'll choose the Hottie of the Week and the Little Bitch of the Day. At 15 minutes, we'll break down the 2022 Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. And finally, at 33:40, we'll play Birdie, Bogey, or Par. Welcome to the Drop Zone with the Intangibles. I'm your host, Wolfmere.
And it's I, Leonard Peebley.
We're here to talk about disc golf and nothing but, motherfucker.
Ooh, I might have some non-disc golf stuff to sprinkle in this week.
I might also have some, depending. Well, let's get into it, Matt. We just watched together the final round of the Pro Tour Championship, and I'm busting with ideas and thoughts about it.
Yeah, busting with something, all right.
There's no time to waste. Let's get into the play of the game.
Poke chat, poke chat, poke chat.
What do you got? Oh, before we do, this is the first time where we've done an official vote for play of the game. And the votes are in, and in a landslide victory from last week, fucking the haters, 66% of the votes came through for Chain Chomp Braden and fucking the haters.
66% repeating, exactly 2/3 of the 3 voters voted for it.
And we should say the 33.3% repeating was Veronica voting for her own self-sacrifice to make you look like a hero. So
It's true.
I mean, I don't want to say that's abuse on your part, but it may be.
Let's put it up to a vote. Everybody get back on Twitter and let us know your thoughts.
No, I don't want to do that vote. That sounds bad. But for the first official vote, it's 1-0 Kenny's nominations over Matt's. So stat keeper, I want to see you keeping those stats all time. Who has the most nominations that go through?
You'll find it on Statmando next to Gannonbur's height and weight.
Yeah, thanks Statmando for keeping track of this.
And just so we're all on the same page here, these votes are staying up perpetually, right? So we can check in a year, see how we're doing, see if we got a few more votes. Maybe I'll overtake you.
No, that's not true. It's a one-day poll.
Oh gosh, one day.
That's it. That's all you get.
Wow. I'm gonna stage a coup on this one, I think.
All right, as soon as you get Twitter, I'll worry about that. All right, play of the game this week. What do you got?
I'm gonna give my play of the game to an actual person, but I'm not gonna name their name. It's somebody I work professionally with, somebody who is works as a customer. Basically, they're with one of the customers we serve, and we're gonna call this person Julia Gulia. And I'm giving Julia Gulia the play of the game because she didn't show up to her own scheduled meeting today, which I didn't want to be at anyway. And so no one at her company knew what we needed to talk about, and there was no one to lead us. And so we didn't have the meeting. And thanks, Julia. That was a big win for me on a Monday afternoon.
Damn. I think you're going to win this no matter what. Who doesn't love a canceled meeting?
It was fantastic. It's like,
wow.
I got 30 minutes of my life back. I didn't have to sit through whatever it was going to be. And, I'm curious what happened to Julia. I hope she's all right.
I mean, but honestly, who cares?
Yeah, it's not that important to me.
Damn, that's tough to beat, especially with what I'm bringing to the table today.
I can't wait.
I am nominating for the intangible play of the game, the Farmers of America.
Ooh, the future Farmers of America?
The present Farmers of America get my play of the game. Because today, they harvested the soybean field next to my disc golf course, which means I can now run my roller on hole 17 without fear of losing my disc. So I have a brand new shot open to me for the next 6 months, basically.
Yeah, until summertime almost, right? They'll plant and it'll take a bit to grow. So
yeah, so I'm excited about running some crazy shots and not worrying about losing my disc.
A+ stuff, farmers. Yeah,
so
now
thanks,
you can
farmers.
Now you can really hang your island forehand out over the bean field on number 18.
That's true. I have dialed it in quite a bit over the course of the summer, though. Before the Webmill Invitational, I did lose a few in there temporarily, but I really feel like I've dialed in. I'm kind of back to where I like my forehand to be. That's where I've gotten over the course of the season. Even still, like, that's just a load off my mind to not even have to worry about that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let your votes be known. The Twitter is @Wolfmere, or you can look up the hashtag #TheIntangibles, and I will have up a poll when this episode goes out. You will have exactly 24 hours, and if you don't vote in that time, that's too damn bad. All right, on we go to the Hottie of the Week. Matt, do you have a Hottie of the Week?
I do. It's NFL season. We talked about that a little bit in the previous episode or two, and I'm a Packers fan, so I try to watch the Packers games every week. Packers stink. They're bad this year, but we're not going to talk too much about that. They played the New York Jets on Sunday at noon. Seemed like it on paper would be a nice, straightforward victory for Green Bay. That's not what happened. They got absolutely shut down. And one player in particular on the Jets, his name is Quinnen Williams, was like just an absolute monster. He was the difference maker. So he is my Hottie of the Week. He is a defensive tackle for the New York Jets. He's 6'3", 303 pounds. That's what he's listed at.
God damn. Is that a Statmando?
Yeah, an inch taller than me and about 120 pounds heavier. So
that's insane to think about.
And he's out there throwing other 300 and 350 pound men around like it's nothing. He had 2 sacks, 3 QB hits, 1 forced fumble, and 1 blocked field goal. That was all him. So good job, Quinnen. You're a Hottie.
It's a lot of good stats to have on a single player on a single day.
Uh-huh.
Very nice. Well, I also have a star athlete that I want to highlight as my Hottie of the Week.
It's got to be me.
It is, in fact, Niklas Antela.
Ah, dang it.
Who you might remember from the US DGC as the runner-up and serious contender, very steady player. He played a pretty big role in the Pro Tour Championship, made some very nice plays, and in particular, he threw an insane shot, which I want to share with you right now, Matt.
Please do.
Starting the video in 3, 2, 1.
Again, Niklas, as you've noted, was basically in the exact spot you want to be for this second shot, so let's see if he can execute.
Yeah, and Mason was as well, so he's gonna be feeling a bit disheveled about that shot.
This is looking really good. Way down there, and oh my goodness!
Just a nice casual 350-foot throw-in.
This is for Eagle. I'm not even sure how far this would be.
355 feet. That's how far.
We'd see this.
Perfect path.
Right
S's through the trees.
Right to the center.
Dead center.
Of the hole, and that is a beautiful.
That's pretty incredible.
Way to.
And he didn't even make it to the last day.
He did not.
What a loser.
No. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
Pretty incredible.
I don't know how you feel, but I think those kinds of eagle shots, throw-ins, are almost more impressive than the ace shots. Because oftentimes the aces come on holes that are meant to give you the ace opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, finding the line on a throw-in at a place that is not the tee-off, it's not something you've practiced, it's almost more impressive. And so, seeing Niklas have, obviously, a great weekend at USDGC and then also get this incredible throw-in, I was very impressed. So, Hottie of the Week, Niklas.
Pretty darn cool. Yeah, there definitely is something amazing about that, about just stepping up to a brand new shot you've never practiced or seen before, being able to dunk it.
And this course offers a lot of opportunities for that, for sure. All right, how about little bitch of the day?
Yeah, so my little bitch of the day, went football themed, and I was moaning about the Packers already, so I gave it to Aaron Rodgers.
You could just give it to him every week, basically.
I could. I definitely could. There's lots of reasons that he could be the little bitch, but in particular, I'm giving it to him this week for just playing some crappy football. Not that I blame him for the loss by himself, but I think they could be making some better play calls. They could, do some better things. It seems like they're not clicking, not working very well right now. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, my little bitch.
You get my follow-up vote. That's fine. I like that.
Well, I got to hear yours anyway, okay?
My little bitch of the day goes to Justin Menichelli.
Justin Menichelli.
The name doesn't sound familiar?
I don't think so.
This is the former PDGA president of the board of directors.
Okay.
Who stepped down earlier this year, I believe, after he made some bad comments about Paige Pierce.
Oh.
So Paige Pierce basically issued some criticism about the FPO, about how things were being announced, how course details and like tournament details were not being actually explained very well to the players. And then Justin Menichelli, the PDGA president at the time, basically bashed her in an interview and said that people behind the scenes were roasting her for her comments, and that she was very self-serving with her comments. And as you can imagine, people didn't like that he was saying that and didn't agree with that take, and didn't like that he was making these kinds of comments in a public forum if he had anything to say. So he stepped down. It wasn't a good look for him, wasn't a good look for the PDGA. But in more recent news, seemingly unrelated, the PDGA issued a survey to all PDGA members, and the survey is like polling opinions about transgender people performing on the Pro Tour, performing in the PDGA, and what people think of that. And weirdly, the survey was created and sent out by Justin Menichelli, who is serving on a volunteer basis now. And is still doing this. And it was the project of the survey is weird. The questions were apparently very weird. And I don't know what he is doing anything to do with the PDGA. So Justin Menichelli gets the first official, this isn't like the last two I gave to Simon Lizotte cheekily and myself slightly cheekily. This is the first true, for me, little bitch of the day. This guy is a little bitch, and he should be shamed.
I didn't. So I had heard about the questionnaire and some of the questions, but I didn't know that he was associated with it.
He's apparently fully behind it, which I just don't understand.
Is there any info on if the actual PDGA is still authorizing it, if that makes sense? They're aware of it and allowing it?
So, I mean, the survey is in association with some sort of academic study that's more generally about people's opinions about transgender issues within athletics. Mm-hmm. That's sort of the context. But the PDGA has said with the survey, this may help form and shape their ideas of what they're going to do going forward. But that's also at odds with the fact that the PDGA has said, we already have a policy in mind that we're going with next year that we're going to announce. So
right.
It's all very weird, very confusing.
It's interesting that he is he works at a college. He works at Western Carolina University. So under the guise of an educational, who knows?
I don't know. It's pretty weird, at the very least. I don't know what he has anything to do with anything anymore, so.
Fascinating stuff. Well, I would certainly give him my vote.
Well, we both agree. Aaron Rodgers and Justin Menichelli, little bitches of the day. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then we will jump into the Pro Tour Championship.
Oh, let's break it down! are you so angry?
Boom! Pro Tour Championship time. We're talking about the last official event of the 2022 season. We are talking about Charlotte, North Carolina, Nevin Park, and we are talking about a very different format from the rest of the season. So, Matt, you and I talked about earlier this year the fact that Worlds is kind of weird in that the Worlds Championship is just another major like any other throughout the year. This is kind of in the vein of what we were looking for, right? Where the points that you've accrued throughout the season actually matter. And the way this format works is that it's 4 rounds. You have to qualify to get in. And it starts with a round of like 16 people. And only the top 4 players of that round make it to the next round, where they will be joined by other players who have received a bye based on their points throughout the season. They'll play, and then again, the top 4 of that one round go on to the next round, the semifinals, where they'll meet other players who have gotten 2 byes. And then the top 4 go into a final round, and the winner of that one final round is the tour champion. So this is kind of what we had in mind. The points that you've accrued throughout the season matter, but ultimately you do have to show your medal in an actual championship round.
Right. Yeah, and just to be clear, it's a round of 16 to start. The top 4 go into basically another round of 16, right? You bring in 12 higher seeded people with those 4. They play around, and the 4 winners from that round, top 4 from that round, will go on to the next one, again with 12 more. So it's always 16, 16, 16 until that last round.
It's not. I believe it's 16, then 12, then 8, then 4.
Oh, okay.
It does get smaller as you go on. And I think that's partially dependent on how many players are in your league at the time. I don't believe MPO and FPO had exactly the same numbers, but the basic idea is there. You're trying to be in the top 4 each day to go on to the next round and hopefully make it through to the end.
Right.
And you are substantially advantaged by having a good season up to that point because you will get through towards those final rounds. And I guess also we should point out the money is very big for this tournament. The winner of both the FPO and the MPO win $35,000 each, which is a huge sum of money for disc golf.
Right.
For a single event.
Compared to other purses. I think the kind of interesting thing about this format, right, is yes, you're advantaged if you have more points from the season, but if you make it to that final round of the weekend, basically, you're all starting at the same level, right? You don't have any stroke advantage from the previous rounds you played that weekend. You're all starting at 0, and whoever has the best single round at that point is the winner.
Definitely. And if you are someone who's made it from the first round and had just been on fire the first 3 rounds, if you have an off round the last day, you won't win. Although you will get quite a nice purse by making it just to the final round. Let's start by talking about the FPO, which I watched and enjoyed. The one thing I will say I do like about this format is it does what we want, which it puts the best players are the ones throughout the whole season are the ones in that final round. So the final round for the FPO featured Valerie Mondahano, Kristen Tatar, Missy Gannon, and Owen Scoggins. Just 4 really great players. Kristen Tatar, if she wasn't in it, it would kind of feel like a crime where she really messed up, which is hard to imagine. One of the Mondahanos, I would bet money would always be in the end event like this. Missy Gannon. Owen was kind of the wild card. Owen's great. I love watching Owen. She's really fun to watch. But she doesn't always make it to these final events, so that was really exciting. And she's fairly consistent. To me, watching this FPO final round, it was like a perfect summary of the FPO season if you watch this full round. The round starts, everyone's keeping pace through the first 5-6 holes. It's 1 up, 1 down, even. Everybody's kind of hanging out in the same zone. And then slowly Kristen Tatar starts winning strokes here and there, chipping away. And then before you know it, she has a 4-stroke lead over second place. and that's how the entire round went. It basically, once you got to like hole 14, it felt like there's nothing that can happen that is going to knock Kristen Tatar off. And indeed, she won. She broke the record for the highest single season earnings, which was set last year. And she broke it by $35,000. Like, she shattered the record. The last record was around $65K. She's made over $100K this season, which makes sense. The crazy thing to me, the crazy stat, is that she podiumed every event she was in this year. So she got first, second, or third place in every single event that she played, which is absolutely wild.
Yeah, that's bonkers. I almost didn't believe it when you told it to me earlier. I knew I'd seen her at the top in pretty much everything I'd watched, but to actually be top 3 on every single event that you signed up for is pretty wild. I mean, I wonder what the percentage is for the person, the MPO, who's had the most podium finishes, you know?
It's not that good. I can tell you that.
Yeah, definitely.
None of the men finished top 3 or really close. I mean, the people who we always talk about always make podium or like are in the mix in the men's side. Paul Macbeth, Calvin Heimberg, Ricky Wysocki. To me, those are the 3 guys who are always like hanging around. And often they end up on the final card. Sometimes they don't, though. Mm-hmm. You know? Sometimes they are on the chase card. Sometimes they have a bad tournament and they end up in 20th. You know? Mm-hmm. Doesn't happen often, but it happens. I mean, that seems pretty normal even for the best players. I mean, Kristen exhibited a type of dominance that's just hard to wrap your head around.
Yep.
Like, did Tiger Woods have this kind of dominance in his heyday?
I honestly don't know. I wasn't paying attention to golf in his heyday, unfortunately.
It just seems crazy, though, doesn't it? Can you imagine a golfer, like, finishing first, second, or third every single major event?
Yeah, I mean, it is wild. I'd love to go back and look. Like, did Paige Pierce do that in years past? You know, like, was that... There would have been less competition in years prior, so you would think it would be that much more likely.
I was going to say that's also what makes Kristen's success even crazier, is that obviously the FPO is bigger now than it's ever been, and the competition is more than it's ever been. So to exhibit this degree of dominance when the FPO is more difficult than it's ever been before is pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's more and more competition next year, right?
I think there will be. I think, like we mentioned in previous episodes, that Kristen is dominating by just playing smart golf, basically. Not to, like, undersell her talent, which is, like, obvious to anybody who watches her, but she plays smart golf, mostly, and has the skill to back it up. I think there's lots of players in the FPO who could challenge her if they want to match that degree and, like, step up their game. So it's going to be an exciting time going into 2023.
Already looking forward to next season.
But first, MPO. We just watched the final round of the men's side of things. So what are your thoughts? Just in general, I guess, jumping into it. What do you want to talk about?
Man, so it was at Nevin Park, like you mentioned. So it's a pretty woodsy course when it comes down to it. It's a lot of navigating trees, navigating lines between different trees and stuff like that. Lots of kind of ravines or steep drop-offs around the baskets especially. So it was definitely a challenging course to watch the players play and definitely some luck, I suppose, in the sense that there's all those trees out there. Like there was a lot of Paul Macbeth in particular, but everybody hit a lot of trees throughout the round. So there's a lot of kind of dealing with the deflections and figuring out how to scramble from those not so ideal spots.
Definitely.
But it was a fairly close match between the four of them at the end of the day.
That's true. If you put aside, especially like Paul towards the end, felt like he was just kind of like, I'm over it, just throwing discs, not even really thinking about it too hard, because he knows I'm fourth place of this round, so whatever. But even so, like before that, he sort of broke down. It was not that many strokes between first and last, and even at the very end, players were kind of making mistakes, and Gannon, who was in third at the time, had his chances, and if the other players had messed up a little bit, if he had gotten some lucky breaks, he was very much still in the mix. It wasn't a foregone conclusion.
You're talking about Gannon?
Gannon, sorry, not Calvin.
No problem. One of those tall, skinny guys.
Tall, skinny something-ins.
Yeah, I mean, there was, like, throughout a lot of the round, it was kind of like two sets, right? You had Isaac and Ricky kind of just playing at each other's levels, kind of setting the pace for the lead spot. And then you had Paul and Gannon, who were at any point, 2 or 3 strokes back. But like you said, that never felt insurmountable, and Gannon even made kind of a little bit of a run at the end to catch back up,
right.
While Paul went the opposite direction, kind of the wheels came off eventually.
Hit every tree on the course on his way out.
He was clearly getting frustrated by the end of the round.
Yeah, definitely the most frustration I've seen from him, just throwing discs at his bag. But, last round of the entire season, I can see why he's a little bit frustrated. We get to the end of the final round with the MPO, and hole 17, what should have been Isaac Robinson sealing the deal and snatching the Pro Tour Championship. We had Ricky go way into the woods, hit a tree, kick right into the muck. And if you kick into the woods at Nevin Park, it's cabbage. Like, you just don't have good looks from there. And then on his second throw from the woods, what happened is, what would happen to any of us if we were out there in the woods? He threw another one that kind of got lost in the woods. And at this point, it's like Isaac just has to, and he had a decent drive. It's like Isaac just has to pitch and putt his way to victory, basically. But that's not what happens. He fumbles it. He has a low window that he has to get through, fails to get through it, and then a putt to make to cinch things, and he doesn't quite make that either. So he and Ricky bogey on this last hole, which means that it could have been, if Isaac just played it as a par, he would have been up by 2 going into the final hole. Instead, he goes bogey, so does Ricky, so he's still just up by 1, which leaves the door open on basically the only long open hole on the course for Ricky to pull out his distance and get a birdie.
Yep, yeah, Ricky had a beautiful drive on 18, a beautiful approach. Had himself in a nice, it was a long putt, but nothing too bad for Ricky. And
yeah.
Isaac played it well too. He played it just fine, but just well enough to get a par, right? So,
right.
They
which puts him in a bad position, because the playoff then starts at 18, the hole they just played, where Ricky got a birdie and Isaac got a par.
Yep.
And basically the playoff just plays exactly the same way as it did on the regular course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Ricky basically plays the same exact drive and approach. Isaac played up the right side the entire time, was kind of close to some trees and stuff, and he had an approach that he didn't really run. He didn't try to put it in the basket. He just tried to lay it up close in case Ricky were to miss his putt, and Ricky, stone cold, just chucked it right in there. And
yeah, and when we were watching it, your comment before Isaac even threw, you're like, Isaac needs to run this. Isaac needs to try to put this in, because Ricky's not going to miss.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ricky's going to try to make that putt. He's going to try to put it in, and he's almost certainly going to get the par if he doesn't make that. So even if you lay up and get the par, maybe you do push it if that happens, but I don't know. Why not run it? And you're probably not going to be that far away still. You can probably still putt back if that's the scenario you're in.
Yeah, I think, going for that just layup par is, I don't know what the percentages would be, but very high percent you're going to get second place. But why not run it? If you miss horribly, you're still in second place. If you make it, okay, then either you win or you're pushing to hole 1, where you've been the better player in the closed wooded part of the course. Mm-hmm. So I think that gives you the better chance.
I think nevertheless, there's a I forget which stat group for the NFL does this, but they put together this thing called a surrender index, and they use it for mostly like when teams choose to punt in situations. They'll assign a surrender index. So it's like if a team is down by, I don't know, so a team's down by 14 points. There's 9 minutes left in the third quarter, and it's a 4th and 2 on their own 30 or something, and they punted it. This is a 99.2 on the surrender index,
which means like their likelihood to lose after doing that.
It means that they're little bitches, basically. it means that they should have gone for it and they didn't, because they were pansy asses and just didn't want to do it. So
gotcha.
I think that the surrender index wasn't quite that high for Isaac's decision there, but it wasn't that low either.
I would agree. I think the right decision would have been just to flat out, whatever shot you think has the best chance of going in the basket, go for that shot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the surrender index. That's a good thing to have in our back pocket.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fun round to watch, though. I didn't think Ricky was going to win for a lot of the round, especially on the back nine. He had some really rough spots, and
he did.
It really came down to someone else, Isaac, not playing his best for Ricky to win.
Yeah, it was a little bit like Paul in Worlds, where it's like Ricky is just hanging around, and it was close enough that if you don't shut the door on him, he's going to be there and he's going to execute if you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we know that's what separates the greatest from the others, right? Is that they can continue to execute all the way through that round in those opportunities. So
good tour championship. I mean, the winners are Kristen Tatar and Ricky Wysocki, which I would just say were the two best players, FPO and MPO. So justice was done this day.
Very representative of the of the year, right? I mean, it wasn't a surprise at all, and I think they both earned it. So
definitely. And I would have been happy if any of the players in the final rounds of FPO or MPO had won. I think it would have been, if Owen Scoggins walked away with it, that would have been great. If Isaac had walked away, if Paul had, if any of these players had walked away with the Tour Championship Cup in their hands, I would have been like, yep, I buy that. That's good.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, shall we go into fan favorite segment, Birdie, Bogey, or Par?
It's definitely our favorite segment. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Welcome to Birdie, Bogey, or Par! Clap, 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 clap. All right, Matt. You know how the segment works, but in case the listener does not, I'm going to show you some shit, and you're going to say if it's a birdie, bogey, or par, a.k.a. is it good, is it bad, or is it fine to have and to be? So let's start on topic here. Nevin Park Disc Golf Course. You just watched a full round. What do you think?
I'll give it a birdie. I like the course.
Birdie.
I think I'm a sucker for woodsy courses in general, and this one didn't feel like it was... again, it had paths, it had lines. I didn't feel like it was an unfair woodsy course. I could definitely see justification for it being a par rather than a birdie, because I think some more variation could be interesting for a Pro Tour championship. But in general, I like the course. I give it a birdie.
I respect your decision. That being said, I'm going to have to give it a bogey.
A bogey? Wow.
I don't hate the course. I think as a course, I would give... we said as we were watching it, this would be a very fun course to play. Mm-hmm. As the Pro Tour Championship, it's a very specific course that rewards a very specific player. And should that be the case for the culmination of the entire season for all the players. That doesn't really work for me, I don't think. I would love to see, like we talked about with Worlds, 2 courses, or a really varied course that does a bunch of different things. This course does the same thing over and over. Super narrow shot through a tunnel with a ton of trees. If you miss, you're in the woods. You missed, you're down a ravine, So, although I think the course is fun, for a choice for the Pro Tour Championship, I don't love it.
Yeah, fair.
Okay. Next up. The Locked Tomb.
Oof.
The fantasy book series by Tamsin Weir.
Well, I have only made it through Gideon the 9th so far, and I would give Gideon a birdie for sure.
Good birdie.
The jury is still out on the series as a whole, but I'll report back on this when we ask this again in a few months, maybe.
Yeah, when it's completed. I think that's the key. I also would say what I've read so far, birdie.
And are you currently reading Nona? Or are you finished?
I'm in Nona the 9th right now.
All right.
So, but everything I've heard, reports are positive. It all depends how it ends,
How is there a set number of books
There's
in the series?
one more book coming.
All right. Well, I should have known the only way you would read a series.
Well, it's tricky because when this series started, it was called the Locked Tomb Trilogy.
Oh.
And the publisher liked it so much, they're like, would you write another book for more cash? And the author said, yes, I would. Which I don't blame the author.
Yeah.
But it makes me as a reader go, it's not part of your initial vision.
So it is confirmed that it's not like the 3 got divided into 4. It is like an extra beyond the 3. Okay. Well, so with that up in the air, who knows?
Don't know. So we'll have to see. But yeah, as you say, as an incomplete series, birdie so far. Which I also would have said to Lost, I would have said to Dark, I would have said to The Dark Tower, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yep.
Next, the Pro Tour Championship format. We talked about it a little bit already. You have conflicting thoughts?
I'm going to give it a par.
Nice par.
I like the format for like an event in general, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's a cool, fun way to play. I think having people seeded, so you're kind of making it worthwhile to do well, is a good idea. For the Pro Tour Championship, I think we could go back to the drawing board and maybe come up with a better, a better format that feels like it does give proper weight to the rest of the year. It almost feels like the Pro Tour Championship is like an afterthought compared to the rest of the year, compared to the Worlds tournament. And I think part of that in my head is just because like some of these players literally only had to play 2 rounds, right?
Right.
And I think that is a huge. You don't have to be good you don't have to be good consistently to win this event.
Although you being consistently good through the season put you in that position.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a little torn on it. I think it's a cool format, and I give it a par.
I also would give it a par. So you didn't watch the rest of the coverage, or you haven't so far. I mean, maybe you'll watch the rest of it. This format is not awesome to watch on coverage, especially the coverage that I'm most accustomed to, like the Jomez style of post-production. You're watching one card of 4 players, and you're just watching them throw discs. So it's cutting out all the in-between stuff. So imagine you're watching round 1. You're watching 4 players, and you're watching their full round, and at the end of it, 3 of them get cut, and you didn't get to see anybody, like any of the other players who made it through. And you also weren't getting to see how they were comparing to them throughout the round. You just saw 4 players play around, and then, 3 of them are gone, I guess. So it kind of sucked the drama, it sucked the air out of the room a little bit. That's a coverage thing. That's not about the format specifically, but you kind of need to solve both problems at the same time.
I was gonna say, as a fan, coverage is important, right? So
it is, yeah. So I agree. Par. Next up, watching House of the Dragon after you've already watched Game of Thrones.
Oh man, I haven't actually watched any of House of the Dragon. So I'm giving you a judgment on watching this after watching Game of Thrones.
So full disclaimer for me before you issue your judgment. I don't care, but I have not watched Game of Thrones. I've only watched 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. I watched the Hold the Door episode and the series finale.
Yeah.
And other than that, I just watched my friends suffer through the final season of Game of Thrones.
And you haven't watched any House of the Dragon either, I assume.
And I'm not going to now.
I guess I'd give it a par. Like you
Nice
like
par.
what you like, you know. If you like fantasy, dragon, sexy time stuff, then keep watching Game of Thrones shows.
I guess so. I feel like as a person who's seen my friends hurt by Game of Thrones, it's like watching someone walk back into an abusive relationship. It's like, honey, no.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Game of Thrones was ruined by directors who didn't want to be there anymore, and generally speaking, just a show that it ran too long for them to be a part of, and it didn't go long enough for it to actually be a good conclusion. So they fucked themselves pretty good.
So you're saying maybe it'll be good under different direction.
Could be. And maybe they have an idea and it's going to be they've got 3 seasons that they want to do, and that's that. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. What I will say is Game of Thrones had a wonderful production value. HBO does know how to make a good show. And I never felt like I really wasted time in watching Game of Thrones until the last season.
Interesting. But do you feel like you retroactively wasted time because the end was bad?
No.
Or do you feel like, no, I enjoyed myself along the way?
No, I enjoyed myself along the way. And there are some just absolute masterpieces of episodes throughout that series that were like their own mini movies, you know, that I would go and just watch that one episode again for sure. So I think there's still some merit to the show.
I think you have a healthier attitude towards these things than I do. So I get to the end and I don't like it. I was like, it was all a waste. And you're like, no, I had fun. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, everything gets fucked up if it's out there long enough, if that makes sense. Like if you make a 20 season show, it's just not going to be good for that whole time. And I don't want to watch that kind of thing.
That's true.
That's like I don't want to watch all 30 seasons of The Office. I really don't care to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. How can it be good for that long? All right. Next up, David Wiggins Jr. drives 698 feet on level ground at the distance drive competition.
I mean, that's a birdie. I don't know how it couldn't
birdie.
be. I can't throw 700 feet.
Yeah, not even remotely close. Dude is built different.
Do you know what disc he used to do it?
I don't know. You're gonna look it up?
Yeah, I knew what it was recently. Distance record disc. It was not what I expected it to be.
An AVR. Insane. Whoa, Star Coyote.
That's not right.
You don't know.
Obituaries. No, that's not the right place. Well, I'll find it eventually, but it's
You
not.
threw the dynamic disc obituary X300.
I don't remember. We threw a 154 gram Boss over 1,000 feet one time.
So that was like downhill with wind and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
But just throwing 700 feet raw.
it's pretty
Raw
good.
dogging 700 feet.
Well, he does a 360 throw too, doesn't he?
He does, but this was not doing that. This was without any gimmicky throw. He just chucked a disc 700 feet.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Not looking it up. Done?
I can't find it. I don't
That's
know.
fine.
We're gonna say that it is it's an ultimate frisbee. It's one of the 175 gram ultimate frisbees that you use for ultimate frisbee. That's what he threw.
What a fucking monster.
Yeah, incredible stuff. He threw it scuba too.
Jesus. David, relax. All right, next up. 30th anniversary edition Magic the Gathering. They are selling 4 booster packs. That's 4 packs of 15 cards each for $1,000. What do you think about that?
Magic themselves?
Yes.
They're not letting their fans buy this and inflate it up to this. This is what they're selling it.
They will sell this to you in a pack from Wizards of the Coast for $1,000.
That's an absolute bogey. I don't want your expensive cards. I'll print them on construction paper if I want to play with them.
Damn right. That is the final verdict on 30th Anniversary Edition. Next up, Barbasol.
Man, I have a can.
Bogey or par?
I have a can of Barbasol in my shower. I use it every damn day, shaving up around my mustache. You know what? I wish I knew how much money they paid to be a sponsor of the event this past weekend. I'm gonna give it a Birdie. I think it's great. Birdie. It's a brand I know. It's a brand I'm very familiar with. Consumer product who's paying to be a part of disc golf. I love that.
I'm glad when we were watching that you took note of the Barbasol, because I was like, I hope this isn't too inside baseball to make this a Birdie, Bogey, and it's like the first thing that you said when we were watching.
Yeah, well, and the other sponsor is Johnsonville Brats, so...
Yeah. So I will say, I was going to give this a par originally, because I was like, I like having big sponsors for my niche sports, because it's a sign that, you're on your way up, you're making it, money's coming into the sport, which is a good thing. But Barbasol is like, I don't get why they are advertising, LL Bean? Sure, I get the connection, outdoorsy stuff. Just shaving cream? I don't know. But when I was watching the FPO, one of the commentators mentioned, I wonder if Barbasol is sponsoring because of disc dyeing. And I was like,
yeah,
what? And apparently, yeah, it's used as like a reagent for dyeing discs. And I was like, is that the play? That's insane. So Birdie for sure, if that's the case.
I bet you that they are aware of that connection and they're perfectly happy to exploit that in whatever way they can. I mean, the commercials obviously were not about dyeing your discs.
The commercials were about, do you have a face? Do you want to live your life? Barbasol.
And it turns out that almost every disc golf fan and player has a face. So they got a good audience here.
Total market overlap. All right, Birdie. Surprise Birdie for Barbasol.
Unanimous Barbas Birdie.
Related to Barbasol, what do we think of shaven Paul Ulibarri?
I gotta look up Paul's face with his normal facial hair. I don't think I'm particularly impressed with his normal facial hair, to be honest with you. You chose a very questionable picture for this one.
I chose a very flattering image.
Yeah. I feel like you want me to give him a bogey. Oh.
I went, this is from the practice round for this tournament, and I just wanted to pick, because I saw him and I was like, oh god, he shaved. Matt, what will Matt think of this? And then when I hit the freeze frame, this is the face I got. And for the listener, it's, when you take a random frame, you get some weird faces. It's like he's got one eye closed and one blearily looking. He's just kind of side smirking. It's not a good look.
I kind of like shaved Paul face. I think his normal facial hair is fine. Mustache, quite acceptable. The little goatee stuff, it's not for me. I'm gonna give it.
Prefer?
I'm gonna give it a par because I'll take Paul either way.
Par Ulibarri to close things out.
Mm-hmm.
This has been
Woo!
Pretty Big or Par.
How long have you been practicing that?
I just came up with it. And this has been the Intangibles. Thanks for joining us. Get out there and vote for the play of the game.
Yeah, vote for me this time, gosh dang it.
Yeah, right. Actually, I think I'm going to lose pretty handily this time.
Well, only time will tell. I gotta get my social media presence out there just so I can win votes against you.
You get 100,000 Twitter followers just to win play of the game.
And start making bots for myself.
Oh my god. What an animal. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I've been Kenny.
I am Leonard Peebley.
And we'll see ya on the next one. Bye-bye.